Okay,
ready? Okay, there we go. Ready? Hey,
kid. What time is it?
Time for a niggin. You did it, you did it, my damn. You did it, you did it, you did it, my yeah. Oh, you did it, you did it, my yeah. You did it, you did it, you did it, my yeah. Oh, you did it, you did it, my yeah. You did it, you did it, hi, you did it, you did it, my yeah. You did it, you did it, hey, I did it, yeah. 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 Da da dam, yeah. I did it, my dam, yeah. I was am Sagen, was wird sein morgen? Als der Schenker wird uns borgen. Es merke doch sein, und wie noch der Wein, nehmen wir a Kellerchen rein. Harninu goyim amei, kidam avod avikem, v'nakam yashiv letzor, v'chiper ad mosei amei. Harninu goyim amei, kidam avod avikem, v'nakam yashiv letzor, v'chiper ad mosei amei. Harninu goyim Mama, dam avod avikem, v'nakam yashiv letzor, v'chiper ad mosei amei. Harninu goyim mama, dam avod avikem, v'nakam yashiv letzor, v'chiper ad mosei amei. Ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam. Hey hey. Ay 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 ay, my didam, my didam, my didam, my didam. Ay hey, ay 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 ay, didam, my didam, my didam, my didam. Ay didam, hey ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, hey ay 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 didam, ay 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 didam, hey ay ay didam. Oops, sorry. I did it. Hoy!
All right. That sounds like a good mix. What's the translation of those words?
Well, it is, why should we worry? What will be tomorrow? If the bartender will land, it can be wine or whiskey, we will drink it down with glee.
Oh, very good.
Now, of course, there's deeper meaning to it, but
I'm sure. So the story for tonight is called that the Rebbe refused to stand. The previous Rebbe told us that when he was in the Soviet prison, he resolved that his jailers would not have any effect on him or on his Jewish practice. In his mind, they had no authority over him at all. It was as if they didn't exist. The previous Rebbe's resolve did not weaken even after he was thrown into a dungeon for not answering their questions. Slimy mud coated the walls and the floor, and the cell swarmed with rats and other crawling creatures. There was no place for the Rebbe to lean, much less to sit. And he stood it for 24 hours until finally they returned him to his cell. I think they thought they had softened him up. On Thursday, the 1st of Tammuz, at 11 in the morning, the guards came with tea. They ordered him in Russian to stand up. The Rebbe answered in Yiddish he was not going to do what they wanted. Apparently, one of the guards was Jewish, since he understood the Rebbe's answer. The guards warned him that prison rules required that he stand to show respect for their authority. If he did not stand, they would beat him. The Rebbe answered, No. So, do what you have to. The tea was removed, and the guards fulfilled their threat. They beat him unmercifully. Afterwards, a new cohort of guards entered the cell, and one of them was Lulav, from the Jewish section of the secret police, which dealt with Jewish counter-revolutionaries like the Rebbe. Lulav, incidentally, was the head of the cohort that arrested the Rebbe in his house. He said, Rebbe, why are you starting up with them? Why are you fighting them? You have to understand, when you are commanded to stand, you have to stand up. The Rebbe didn't answer. Answer me, Lulav said. The Rebbe didn't answer. One of the guards slugged the Rebbe under the chin with such force that he felt it for a long time after the incident took place. Later, a third cohort of guards, including a Jew named Kubalov, entered the cell. Again, the Rebbe was ordered to stand, and again he refused. The Jewish guards struck the Rebbe and said in Russian, "We will teach you a lesson." The Rebbe said in Yiddish, "I'm not sure who will teach who the lesson." A few days later, the Rebbe was escorted into the prison office and told that his sentence had been commuted. He was under a death penalty. His sentence was commuted to 3 years of exile in the town of Kosterman, Siberia. Our Rebbe points out that the stories of our Rebbes, and especially a story that a Rebbe tells about himself, teach us lessons in how to serve Hashem. The previous Rebbe resolved to treat concealments and obstacles to upholding and spreading Judaism as non-existent. His resolution was so strong that even after he was beaten 3 times, his resolve did not change. Furthermore, the Rebbe's determination affected a Jew whose whole life was dedicated to waging war against the Torah and Jewish values. Lulav himself called him Rebbe. He didn't call him prisoner, number, this or that. He called him Rebbe. And for us, we have to understand, to ignore as non-existent any concealments and obstacles to strengthening Judaism in ourselves and in the world. And this is especially the case in our present circumstance, when Judaism can be spread openly. We don't have to fight the government without direct obstacles and concealments. In fact, we are helped in our mission, not only in the world to come, but also in this world. And therefore, it's clear as day that if we resolve strongly to accomplish the mission that Hashem gave us and not let difficulties get in the way, we're assured that the goal will be accomplished. And those of us Puran Das, like me and probably my friends, understand our mission is to bring Mashiach. Like the Rebbe said, I'm leaving it up to you. We want Mashiach now.
Amen.
Now, the addendum to this story is travel on Shabbos? No way. On the 3rd of Tammuz, a few days after the previous incident, the previous Rebbe was escorted into the office of the prison and given the news his sentence was commuted to 3 years of exile. They asked him which class in the train he preferred to travel on. He answered first class. They said, "Do you have money to pay for a fancy seat like that?" He answered, "Money was confiscated from him when he went into jail, and he'll use that money to pay for the ticket. If that was not enough, his family would pay for it." Finally, they told him he had to travel second class. Then he was given the news that he would be allowed to visit his family for 6 hours on Thursday before leaving on the train for exile. And the Rebbe said, "And when will I reach Kosterma?" They said, "On Shabbos." The Rebbe said he would not travel on Shabbos, no matter what. The previous Rebbe related the story. He said, Baruch Hashem, he did not have to travel on Shabbos. Rather, he stayed in jail until Sunday, and then visited his home for the 6 hours, and then that night he went to exile. Our Rebbe points out that the prophet Isaiah foretold about the time of the final redemption. Hashem declared, "I will say to the north, give them up," Jeremiah said. "The Lord said to me, from the north comes evil. Nevertheless, they will be ordered to give them up." Thus, the evil ones not only will be unable to prevent the salvation, they will assist in it. They'll help the salvation. This prophecy was manifest in the salvation of the previous Rebbe on Yud Beis Tammuz through the fact that the Rebbe did not have to travel on Shabbos. He was allowed to stay over on Sunday, despite the policy of the government that no one who was not released could leave, and anyone who was released must leave immediately. And even in the face of this unbreakable Stalinist rule, the Rebbe was able to prevail. And if the Rebbe could prevail under those circumstances, we certainly should try to prevail. Huh?
That's great. That's a great Anikin B'Tzaler.
I would hope so.
Okay, I just to say hello to all of our friends, Abba Steinhauser and Omek and Michael Salita and Rachel and
Mordechai
Yehudi and Jacqueline Tenger and Yudaleib and Carolyn Cruz and Angelica and Erika and Denny, good old Denny, and Ori Heinen, Marvin Berner and Leib Barnett, our dear friend Leib Barnett, hello, and all of our friends, so good to see you, and Alberto, and all of our friends, it's so good to see you. Ready, Leib? Ready? Here we go. Like wind up for the beach. Ya ma la ra ma ya ma ra da ma na ya da ma ra ra mo ya da yam de ya da dam Adam moyana ayayam ayayam ayoyinanam yoyinanam ayoyinanam Adam oyinanam oyinanam oyinayram oyinayram oyinanam yoyinayram oyinayram ayram oyinanam oyinanam oyinayram oyinayram oyinanam oyinayram oyinanam 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 Oh ya na nam, oh ya na nam, oh ya na, yo ya na, ya da da do, yo ya da, oh ya da. Oh Yanayadam, oh Yanayadam, oh Yanayadam, oh Yanayadam, oh Yanayadam, oh Yananam, oh Yananam, oh Yanay, oh Yanayadam, oh Yadam, hey oh Yanayadam, oh Yanayadam, Yanadam, Yanam. Oh yananam, oh yananam, oh yanayado, oh yanayado, yanadamayam, oh yananam, hey oh yanayam, oh yanayadam, tadadayadamayanam, oh yananam, oh yananam, oh yanayanam, oh yanayadam, tadadayam, oh yananay,
Thank you. We've been through this before, but Hasidus wants us to go over and over again until we understand things clearly. By learning how a person's mind works, we'll be able to relate to the supernal man on the throne. From our psychology, we'll be able to connect to the godly psychology. In learning mathematics, it's first necessary to know there are 10 numbers in a progressive chronology, from 1 to 10. If you want to know math, you have to know it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In geography, there are 4 directions. Without these axiomatic postulates, it's impossible to understand the subject. Until these axioms are grasped and fixed in the mind. So too in the study of Hasidus. In the study of godliness, there are 10 spheros, that's axiomatic, and 4 worlds. It's worthwhile to take the time to integrate them into our knowledge base. Everybody out there, if they want to, can look up and Google and find out what the 10 spheros are and what the 4 worlds are. I'm going to go over them. The 4 worlds, the highest, first one is called Atzilus, the world of emanation, which differs from the lower 3 worlds. You know how, Gimel Aleph?
how?
How Atzilus is different than
Yeah,
the lower 3 worlds?
because well, one way anyways is that the
One
other
way.
worlds, they feel themselves, they feel their own existence. Atzilus does not feel its own existence at all because it's so nullified. It's one with Hashem rather than merely nullified to Him.
It embodies godliness. Well, the 3 lower worlds feel separate from God. Bria is called the world of creation, Yetzirah the world of formation, and Asiya is the world of action. But Atzilus is called the world of unity because it's only God there. And in a rough metaphor, my hand does not feel separate from me. So too, the attributes in the world of Atzilus do not feel and appear separate from Hashem. They are just how Hashem dresses himself into those attributes. There are 10 attributes. So there's 4 worlds, which we just went over, and there are 10 spheres, 10 attributes. The first 3 are intellect. They're called Chabad. Chachma, Bina, and Das, the famous wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. That's called the 3 heads, and that's the intellect. And as we have those 3 heads, as that's part of our psychology, so too the supernal man has it. The supernal man has wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Now, the lower 7 of those 10 are the emotion attributes. There's kindness, strictness, mercy, victory, glory, and foundation, and kingship. Kindness, strictness, and mercy are feelings in the heart. Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. How do you say it? Victory, glory, and foundation are emotional attributes which bring the feelings into revelation through Malchus, which is thought and speech. Anybody can look this up, study it, and learn it. If you want to, I'll send it to you. Just leave a comment on the Facebook page. And by the same and somewhat connected token, there are two metaphors of how Hashem dresses himself in order to relate to us, in turn allowing us to relate to him. The first metaphor is the human image, like the supernal man on the throne that the prophets see. And like we just said, in that human image, there's a supernal brain and supernal emotion attributes and supernal thought, speech, and action. Hasidus explains that even though Hashem has no body, no likeness of a body, and no form, so what do you mean when we talk about Hashem's right arm? It's only a metaphor for his attribute of kindness. And when we mention the brain of the supernal man, it's a metaphor for how the ungraspable, unknowable one dresses himself in the attribute of divine wisdom in order that we should be able to connect with divinity. If he didn't dress himself in those attributes, there would be no way for us to connect with him. And through that, we can understand how to do his will in making this world a dwelling place for him, which that's his goal. With having worlds and having people and being a king, is so that finally he can come and live here with us. And in this way, since we have an attribute of kindness and an attribute of intellect, then from my flesh I will know God. The second metaphor for how Hashem connects with us is names. The name Kel, Aleph Lamed, represents the divine attribute of kindness. Well, Elohim represents the divine attribute of Gebura, of strictness. So if you call to Hashem by a name that indicates wisdom, he emanates wisdom. You are so wise. For example, if one needs a favor, he addresses the one he positions, you're such a kind person, to elicit from that person an attribute of kindness. Hashem is essentially removed and ineffable, but at the same time, he commands us to love and fear him, which begs another question. How can love and fear be commanded? Okay, you could love somebody, but he can't tell you to love him. And that's the question. Hashem tells us in the Shema prayer, you should love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. So how could he command us to love him? But he doesn't ask the impossible. Therefore, he provides a device to enable us to achieve love and fear of him. And that device is our power to understand, each to his own ability, the greatness of Hashem. As you understand how great Hashem is, then you can come to love him. When one understands godly unity and something of his greatness, his kindness and wisdom, one will automatically love him. The commandment to love Hashem through understanding godliness, the commandment to love Hashem could be accomplished through understanding godliness. And that command is expressed in the prayer, Shema Yisrael, listen Israel. That listen doesn't mean just hear these words with your ears. It means to understand that Hashem is one. Hearing and listening in this context doesn't mean listening to the words. It means rather to understand what is being said. As the Rambam teaches, we have to understand what? Number one, that there is a God. Two, that he is the first and continuous cause of all existence. And three, that he is one. Even in his emanations and creations, he is one in the world. He doesn't change. And even though he's completely separate from the world, at the same time he's completely in the world, and he doesn't change, he stays the supernal one. So we said I'm going to just do a summary of what we said. There's two metaphors how Hashem connects to us. One is a man, a supernal man on the throne. And through understanding our own psychology, we can understand and approach how Hashem works through his attributes to connect with us, even though he really has no form. Second, through his names. In calling someone's name, the person himself turns to the one that's calling. Like if I say, Leib gives a honk on his tooth. It's him himself that turns around. Right, Gimel Aleph?
Yes, he himself turns
See,
around.
there, when I say Gimel Aleph,
Yes,
Gimel Aleph himself is the one that turns
my name didn't turn around, I turned around.
Right, correct. Hasidus teaches there are four worlds, Atzilus, Bria, Seir, and the Sea. And all four worlds are spiritual. But the fourth spiritual world also has a physical manifestation, our physical world, and each world has 10 attributes, 10 spheres. The first three spheres are Chabad, which is Hebrew acrostic for wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and the lower 7 spheres encompass the emotions, kindness, strictness, mercy, victory, glory, foundation, and kingship. And I'm going fast because this is only a summary of what we said. Hasidus teaches that Hashem dresses himself in these attributes in order to relate to us. He doesn't need those attributes. He wants to relate to us, and he wants to come here and live with us.
Who, if we don't live in Atzilus, why does he have them in Atzilus, and why does he have them in the other three worlds?
Because in order to connect to us and come and live in this world, there has to be a connector between the emanator and the emanations. The emanations are the world of Atzilus, but they're emanations, like we said, my hand is part of me. So in order for Hashem to come down into created worlds, which appear separate from him, he first comes into this world, which is this world of unity. Because if he didn't come into the 10 attributes in the world of unity, there would be no way for him to connect with separate worlds. And there'd be no way for separate worlds to exist. I mean, there might be a way, Hashem could do anything, but this is the way he chooses to do it.
Wait, okay.
And when we understand Hashem's greatness, we'll automatically love him. And the commandment to love him is expressed in Shema Yisrael. First, we're going to explain the three dynamics of the intellect, which are called Gimel Aleph. The three dynamics of the intellect.
Chachma and Bina and Das.
Right, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Do we do a nigga now? Or
No,
Yeah.
you go.
Let's do a nigga, mate. Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. Tiri-ra-ya-ya-ya. Tiri-ra-ya-ya-ya. Tiri-ra-ya-ya-ya-ya. My diri-ra-diri-ra-diri-ra-da. Tiri-ra-ya-ya-ya. Tiri-ra-ya-ya-ya. Tiri-ra-ya-ya-ya-ya. My diri-ra-diri-ra. Ya-ya-ya-ya-na-ma-ya-na-ma-ya-na-ma. Oh, ya-na-ya-da-da-da-da. My light-ya-na-ma-ya-na-ma-ya-na. Oh, ya-na-ya-da-da-da-da. Hey, ya-ya-ya-ya-na-ma-ya-na-ma-ya-na. Oh, ya-na-ya-da-da-da-da. I like da-da-dam, da-da-dam, da-da-dam. Oh, ya-na-ya-da-da-da-da. Hey, ya-ya-na-dam, ya-di-dim, ya-ya-na-dam, ya-ya-na-dam, di-da-dam, ya-di-dim, da-da-dam. Ay, hey, hey. Ayanana Maya Didi Mayanana Mayanana Dinada Mayanada da Yana Yana Ay 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 ya Mayana Mayana Oh yana ay ay ya Mayana Ayana Mayana Maya ya Mayana Mayana Oh yana ay Ayna Maya Mayana Tiram bam bam Tiram bam bam Tiram bam bam oh yoy didi dai didi dai didi tiram bam bam tiram bam bam tiram bam bam my didi dai didi da hey ya mayna 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 mo yai didi da da hai na mayna 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 mo yai didi da da hey ya mayna 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 mo yai didi da hey da maydi 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 mo yai didi da da hey hoy hey na na maydi mayna na mayna na dira mayna na malada hey hey maydi 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 dira da da dira da da hey na ya mayna mayna ay nam didam mayda hey na mayna ay nam didam maydi maydi oh na ya oh Yinam.
Groovy, thank you.
I think there might have actually been a mashup of two nigunim. Anyways,
Might have been a what?
a mashup of two nigunim, but
Oh, Chachma, which is wisdom, is the light of the idea before it's dressed in words and letters of explanation. Like you go, wow. And the guy goes, well, what? And you can't explain it to him what you just experienced. Why? Because you're not able to express it in words and letters yet. How is it that you can express it in words and letters? That's through Bina understanding, which is the dressing of the intuitive idea, the flash of Chachma, into words and letters of explanation. And to understand these two functions of the mind, we'll illustrate with the example of seeing a thing. Chachma, wisdom, is like when a person sees a physical thing. At first glance, one grasps the object in his mind in a general way. Therefore, he's not yet able to describe it to another person in words and letters. And we're going to have an example. Why can't he describe it in words and letters? Because he has no idea of its measurements and components and the details of what it is made up. Therefore, you can't say, hey, this thing is a giant thing with a bunch of beautiful colors and it's dancing in the landscape, because he hasn't measured out its details. For example, when a person sees a beautiful building for the first time, right away he goes, hey, that's beautiful. But the reason why it's beautiful, the perfect combination of its parts and color, measurements, has not yet been understood because he has not yet distinguished and measured its details. Therefore, he cannot yet explain its beauty in words and letters to someone who has not seen it. The guy sees this beautiful building and he calls his wife, boy, this is a beautiful building. And she goes, well, what's beautiful about it, and he can't say because he hasn't measured out the details yet. Then you have the level of Bina, which is understanding, which comes after the person measures and distinguishes all the particular details of the building, and when he does it, automatically he understands the reason why it's beautiful. What's beautiful about it? This is what's beautiful about it. There's not the same light as the realization of the beauty, but now it can be explained in words and letters. For example, if he contemplates the details of the building and he sees it has a whole bunch of palatial rooms, it has a huge side, and its placement in the landscape makes it appear as a jewel, then he'll understand why it's beautiful. We'll also be able to explain this to someone else in words and letters of explanation. So the realization of the essence of the beauty, when he first sees the building, illustrates the intellectual level of chachma, of wisdom. The idea itself higher than words and letters of explanation. But the understanding of the reason for its beauty, why is it beautiful, is not the essence of the beauty, but only the explanation of why it's beautiful. And this explanation is only a garment for the essence of the beauty. The same way that any explanation of an idea is only a garment with which to communicate the idea, but it's not the essence of the idea. So the explanation in words of letters is not the essence of the beauty. It is a garment through which the beauty, the reason why it's beautiful, could be communicated. The essence of the beauty illustrates the level of chachma, wisdom, but the explanation of why the building is beautiful is a garment that communicates an understanding of the essence of the beauty in words and letters, and this illustrates a dynamic of understanding called Bina. And the example of the building describes Chachma and Bina in the realm of the physical world of action. The building is in the world of action. Next, we'll explain these two levels of Chachma and Bina as they connect and relate to expressing emotion. Meaning, the measuring out in the intellect of how one should feel or act if faced with a certain situation. Like, should I be afraid or happy when I encounter that? It's not an actual feeling yet. He hasn't encountered it yet. He's just measuring out in his mind how he should react. Is this thing kosher or not kosher? Or should I do a specific action if I encounter a certain situation or not? And these examples are all in the realm of intellect, but it's intellect which pertains to emotion. And it's called seichel of midos. The intellect, it's called the emotional level of the intellect. It's not a feeling, it's not an actual emotion. It's just how the intellect measures out how one should feel if confronted with this thing. They're not actual feelings, just a measuring out in the intellect of what the proper emotional response should be. The emotion is called the realm of feelings. That's not where we're up to. We're just in the emotion connection of the intellect. While the measuring out in the intellect of what should be the proper feeling when encountering something is called the emotion of the intellect, the midos of seichel. And one expression of how emotions are measured out intellectually is in determining if something is allowed or disallowed according to Jewish law. It's either kosher or treif. Kosher, that's allowed, will be an expression of kindness, of the emotion of kindness. as it's measured in the intellect, before you have the feeling of love. Treif is a thing that's not allowed. It's an expression of gevura, of holding back, of strictness, as determined by the intellect. Like the story in the Talmud, where Rab Kahana and Rab Ashi pointed out an apparent contradiction to their teacher. Their teacher was Rab, and they challenged his logic when he made a declaration in Jewish law. He said that an egg that's born on Yontif is not allowed to be gathered. And they said to him, and I'm not a big expert in Gemara, but they said to him, Rebbe, yesterday you said that a cow that's born to a treif mother is kosher. In other words, this pregnant cow was out in the field and a lion tore her throat, she died, and she was pregnant, and the baby was born. And the question, since the mother is treif, is the baby kosher? And he said, yeah, kosher. But now he's saying this egg that's born on Yontif is not allowed. So it seemed like a contradiction. And even though he could not answer their logical objection, he disregarded their objection. He said, no, I'm poskening like this, even though I can't tell you the reason. Why? Because this ruling of law came to him in a way of seeing of the truth of Chachma. So even though he was not able to put this truth into words and letters of explanation, he saw the truth. Therefore, he didn't back up in his declaration of what the law is. He experienced this thing higher than words and letters of explanation. He connected to it through the seeing of Chachma. Not so Rabba Bar Nachmani, a different rabbi, who understood Rab's reason. Even though Rab couldn't express it in words and letters, Rabba Bar Nachmani could tell them why, the reason why Rab said this is the law, because he had the power of Bina to bring it into words and letters, and he gave the reason. And the reason was because the cow that was born to the treif mother was already a complete animal in its mother's stomach. It wasn't a new birth. Therefore, it was already a kosher animal, even though the mother became treif. But the egg that's born on Yontif is a new birth. And therefore, it's not allowed to be picked up. It's called muksa. The bottom line is that we're explaining here is that it's possible to see the truth on the level of Chachma higher than words and letters of explanation. Are you okay with that, Wade?
Yeah.
Does that jive? Okay. And that's why Chachma is called the exalted nothing. It's a nothing because it's intangible. It can't be described in words and letters. Compared to Bina, which is a tangible explanation in words and letters, called a something. Chachma is higher than words and letters. It's an intuitive flash, and therefore not explainable with words. But Chachma is called nothing compared to the tangible explanation of Bina. Nevertheless, it is considered an existence compared to the level where it comes from. Like it said, Chachma comes from nothing. Therefore, it exists as compared to higher than it, which produces it. And that level is not grasped or felt or realized at all. We'll have more on this. And now, after this niggin, we're going to go into das. So far we did Chachma and Bina. Chachma is the intuitive flash, and Bina is the explanation of the idea in words and letters. And now we're going to have words from the heart in a special niggin.
Yes, and also hello to Dovi Asper
Oh,
and Maestro Yitzhak Cohen.
oh,
Okay, ready?
hi, Yitzhak.
Ya 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 ma ya 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 ma ya 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 ma ya 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 ma ya uyam oh ya 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 ma ya 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 ma ya nam oh ya nam ya ma ya ho ya na ya mo ya nam ya ma ya te ya yo ya na ma oh yanadam, oh yanam, ma, oh yam, oh yanam, te yo yanam, oh yanam. Oh yanadam, oh yanam, oh yanaro, yo yanam, oh yanam, te yo. Te ya ma mo yanaro yo yanam mo yanaro yo yanam mo ya mo te ya o yanaro mo yanaro yo yanam mo yanam mo yanaro yo yanam te yo ya mo yanam oh yanadam oh yanam oh yanaro yo yanam oh yanam te ya yo yanam oh yanadam oh yanam oh yanaro yo yanam oh yanadam
All right. Now, the third dynamic, the third dynamic in the intellect is called das, translated as knowledge. But it's not a knowledge of a bunch of facts like the book of knowledge. It means a knowledge of bonding. To know, like a mother knows a baby because she's bonded to the baby, not because she knows a whole bunch of facts about the baby. Like it says, Adam Yodechaba, Adam knew Eve. And it's the same word as das. So what's das? It's not Chachma, the idea, and it's not its explanation, which is Bina, but it is the bonding, the unification, the mental unification with the Chachma and its explanation, Bina. And how is that bonding accomplished? Through concentrating and focusing the mind on the idea and its explanation. And this bonding with the intellect through focusing and concentrating the mind on the idea and its explanation can be illustrated by the example of two students who are equally smart. I don't know why I'm thinking Gimel Aleph and Leib. And they understand the teaching from their Rebbe equally well.
Leib was still missing one stooge.
That's me.
Oh, there we go.
And they understand the explanation equally well. But one of them focuses. He concentrates on the teaching and its explanation, and he concentrates his whole strength of his intellect and energy on this one teaching until during that time he is divorced from all other thoughts and preoccupations to the point that he even forgets his own existence. He's concentrating on this idea and explanation so strongly he doesn't feel that he exists. The second student isn't concentrating on the teaching until his thoughts are wandering and he's thinking about more pressing concerns. Where he's going to get a ticket for the ball game, how he could give away the ticket that he got already, even though he's hearing the explanation and he understands it. Therefore, he won't be able to dwell on the teaching at length after the class, but not the first guy who concentrated on it. He can think about this teaching and how he understands it for a long time, explaining it clearly because of the strength of his bond. Because by concentrating it, he became unified with it, it became his. With the idea and its explanation, and this is called the power of das, the power to concentrate. To bond with the concept through focusing the mind and concentrating on the idea and its explanation. And the ability to do it has a source. It's not just, one guy concentrates and the other guy doesn't. The ability to concentrate has a source which is higher than it. And the source of das is a power called a chush in Hebrew. And a chush is a natural sensitivity or affinity or an ability or a talent which we, for the minute, are going to call a natural inclination. The person has a natural inclination towards this subject. For example, a person who's naturally kind, what do you mean naturally kind? His soul is created by Hashem to express the attribute of kindness. And therefore, he will always generate a desire for good and kindness. And the revelation of this desire for doing a kind thing is higher than the intellect. It's a desire to do a kind thing. He doesn't know why he should do it. He doesn't know how he should do it. He just knows he wants to do it. Higher than the seichel he's going to employ in making it possible for it to happen. So before there can be a chachma bina, a seichel, an idea and its explanation to do a thing, there has to be a desire for it, a ratzon for the thing. And that desire is higher than the intellect, the how and why of doing it. And the concentration of the mind on the revealed desire. You're not concentrating now on the idea and its explanation. You're concentrating on a higher level, the desire for the essence of the thing that idea and explanation will be about. And that's called a chush, the concentration on the desire. And this chush, the mental bond and unification of desire for a thing, is higher than the intellect. And the chush, this bond to the desire, actually causes the birth of the intellect and allows one to concentrate on the intellect when it becomes revealed in the brain. In other words, this level of chush, the bond to the desire for the thing, concentrating on the desire for a thing, is the source of the ability of das, which bonds the contemplator to the revealed idea and its explanation, to the Chachma and Bina, to concentrating his mind. So he's able to concentrate his mind because he is concentrated on the desire for the essence of the thing that Chachma and Bina will bring him to. For example, I hear a person playing a piano in a very beautiful way, and I say, you know what? I also want to play the piano. Now, if I bond to that desire to play piano by concentrating on the desire, I will produce in my intellect logical reasons why playing the piano is good and how to accomplish getting a piano, how to find a teacher, etc. Why? Because I'm bonded to the desire for it. And not only will I produce the how to accomplish learning the piano in my mind, I will be able to concentrate on these ideas when they emerge, and that's called das. Another example, how it is for us, is the learning of Chassidus. If we concentrate and bond to our desire for God and for godliness, which is contained in Chassidus, we'll be able to concentrate on the explanations of the Chachma and Bina about godliness. Is that pretty clear? Are you okay with that one, Leib? Okay, I'm ready to start concentrating. I don't know about anybody else. What about, do we have a niggun to go out with?
Oh, we need a niggun to go out with. Ready? Yehi Ratzain, Yehi Ratzain, Yehi Ratzain, Yehi Ratzain milfonecha, Hashem Elokeinu. Velikei Aviseinu, O Tati our King, won't you do a good thing and please return me to your people? And the angels all sing, O glorious King, won't you please return me to your people? They made you a crown, won't you come back to town? And please return me to your people. Oh, Tati, our King, you know it don't mean a thing unless you please return me to your people. Shevon nebi samir dosh b'miro b'yomeinu zein chelkeinu b'seirosecho. Shevon nebi samir dosh b'miro b'yomeinu zein chelkeinu b'seirosecho. Hey, Shevon nebi samir dosh b'miro b'yomeinu zein chelkeinu b'seirosecho. Shevon nebi samir dosh b'miro b'yomeinu zein chelkeinu b'seirosecho. Shevon nebi samir dosh b'miro b'yomeinu zein chelkeinu b'seirosecho. Shevon nebi samir dosh b'miro b'yomeinu zein chelkeinu b'seirosecho. Hey, Shebane Beisamidos, Bimiro Biyomeinu, Zeinokeinu, Zeirosecho. Shebane Beisamidos, Bimiro Biyomeinu, Zeinokeinu, Zeirosecho. Shebane Beisamidos, Bimiro Biyomeinu, Zeinokeinu, Zeirosecho. Shebane Beisamidos, Bimiro Biyomeinu, Zeinokeinu. Moy besoy osecho Gezintahait, 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 meine friends.
Remember, kids, Gezintahait.
Gezintahait. See you later, everybody.